I had to move out of the way just so you could see the number. Welcome everybody to the 300th, I forgot the D, episode of Up Front with Frank Rothstein on skiescrescentradio.com. We are on Skies Crescent Radio always. As if you're on the website where we are right this second, where our cameras are, we are live on Twitch. We will, of course, be sharing to Facebook at Up Front with Frank Rothstein, me, the Skies Crescent Radio Facebook page. And we will be everywhere else you could think of after Jade decides where she wants to set it. But if there's a .com in the address or it's on an app, you're going to find us. So anyway, we're doing pretty good. That means I've been at this now for 6 years. Actually, August 1st was my 6th year of doing it, but this being my 300th show, however, I go with the number of shows. It's a funner place to be. Sitting with me as always, the musically mechanical, the woman of many wires, many buttons, and all kinds of switches to press. It is, of course, Jade Zabrick. Jade could be operating on the stage with her musicians, or she could work in a Star Trek fantasy. I really never know. There's just a lot of buttons involved and a lot of lights. So, it's fun to watch her videos. Everybody, we would appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe and hit those buttons that let us know you think what we're doing is okay. Here, YouTube, on Jade's YouTube page, Jade Zabrick, and we would appreciate you hitting that little button, ding, that says you like us. Well, it is an interesting day. Yes, I'm doing this 300 times. How do I describe it? There's a lot of crazy people and stupid people out there. And that was my idea when I first started. Actually, the very beginning idea, I've discussed this before, was to find people at the beginning levels of what they're doing. Give people without a voice. But as things have changed, and we went from studio to the internet, and guests are a little less frequent, as you can see, I really stick more with the news, the odd end news, when I can help it. And yes, I do like to find some of the crazier things going on. Sometimes it is what you're seeing on TV. Sometimes you can read it in a newspaper or a magazine, but I prefer to find the things that really can make you say what I say when I read about it, which is, what? And that's what I got. And that's what I have a few stories of today. I could be a little long-winded with fewer stories. But before we start, Jay, do you have any shows coming up this week, or is your calendar free and clear? She's on Wednesday. Well, Jade's going to punch into the chat in a couple of minutes where she's appearing on Wednesday in New Jersey. So you can always go see her sing live and watch her do a 3-hour show and a 3-hour setup. It's interesting. There you go. You can go to the Grasshopper. I don't know where the Grasshopper is, but if you're in Jersey, you do. Jade's not telling us. She's reluctant to tell us where this place is. Either way, just Google the Grasshopper. All right. So this has been pretty cool. Coming up to 300. I got a little nervous about it. I don't know why. It's not like I'm doing something different, but yeah. But I got rid of my iced coffee for today and got a little bit of the brown stuff, which you can't see too well because of the background. But it's basically my little peach Snapple. And why did I choose this black background when half of it makes me fade out? But that's okay because I look thinner. We all know I'm trying to get a little bit thinner. So anyway, what are we talking about today? Oh, there are so many things. Sometimes you just want to reach out and slap everybody in the news in the back of the head. Just give them a little, like they deserve. What am I looking at today? In no particular order of importance, just whatever is accessible first on my computer. So I'm looking on CNBC, and they posted just a little bit about how stores and suppliers are they say, and the word is clash over price hikes as shoppers are hit by sticker shock. That's what it's called, sticker shock. That story posted today. Look at that. I have new news. And that is, I don't, I, you see what's going on when you go shopping. You see what's going on when you go to a restaurant. Go to your local coffee shop, you see what they're charging for something that's so simple as a cup, as a large coffee or a small coffee or an iced coffee or whatever, and you see what's going on with the prices. I don't have to read this thing in total because you know what's going on. You go shopping, you see it. What I wanted to talk about this is it is quite true. And I recently I always tell people I'm in New York City and I do a lot of business in the Greenwich Village and Soho area of Manhattan. But even in Brooklyn, or even where I come from in Brooklyn or other places, prices are insane. Last week we got out of the heat broke. Anyone, if you're not in New York to feel it, if you saw the news, you knew what we had here. It was like 95 and humid every day. It was really bad. It was bad, like a lot of other places in the country. Bad. So I go to this. I go to two places to get takeout food, or I go to this coffee place to get my iced coffees every day because I gotta have them. Well, the takeout food place, they have like a hot table where they have some decent stuff. Well, they also have like a food showcase. You prepare, get prep lunches every day, and where they were charging 12.99 a pound if you didn't get a set meal. After the lunchtime was over, they put it on their hot steam table and say it was $10 a pound. You got that same food. 10 minutes later, drops $2 a pound. Now I went in there one day and I noticed that they did the table is saying that the hot serve yourself table, as you would get it if you went to the food counter and they gave it to you, 12.99 a pound. They jacked their prices up for people who want to serve themselves. And I looked at the manager, who I've always joked about his prices on certain things. I said, "This is a disaster." I said, and I have a theory about this, which most people in retail know. When you see strangers coming in, people who are transient, whether they're passing through, you see them once in a rare while, you'll never see them again, whatever it is, they don't really either they don't know the difference or they're just never going to see you again. They pay what you ask, and that's the end of it. When you see your regulars, the people who are in there all the time, these are the people that hold your business together, and you're now screwing them for your prices. They get angry at you. Everyone understands prices go up and you have to do what you have to do at times and increase something reasonable. But jacking your food up 20% or more is a little crazed, a little extreme. And I passed by this place today and I asked one of them, I said, "How did it affect your sales?" He says, "You're the only one who comes in to say anything because no one else has come back to say anything. They just left. And they've lost a lot of business in the last few weeks because that's what happened." I go to a coffee shop um, nearby to get my iced coffee a few times a week. Their 16-ounce iced coffee, that regular size you see when you go into a store, that went from say 4.90, $5. It went up to 6.25, $6.25 for an iced coffee before tax. And even though the workers are paid by the hour, some people tip them. But I passed by today to say hello to somebody who I recognized, and she told me what the other guy told me in the other store. Yeah, a lot of them are gone. They're all angry. A lot of them are gone. They just left. They didn't come back, and the ones who stayed take it out on the workers because now they have to tip and they have to pay more money. So they have to pay the extra price. So they take it out on the workers who get tipped. Good thing they get paid by the hour. The tip is whatever, you give them something, whether it's the excess change or you give them $1, whatever it is, they're not getting it because the bosses have screwed over their regular customers. And I see that in so many places, so many businesses where they don't steer their customers in the right direction. They're not telling them which food is better, which food's fresher than the other. They'll sell you anything. There is one or two places where they know me and I just point, they give me a nod or what. So, I appreciate that. But it really is quite sad as to what happens in retail and to the extent of what the people who work in a shop will do to their steady customers. Again, not the people who are coming and going, who you're never going to see, who rarely show up, the people who come in every day. And you lose your customers. And that's just what's happening to a few spots. Now, in terms of what I'm seeing in this story in the grocery store, well, yeah, they got you. You have to sort of think of new and inventive ways of shopping or change brands or just know where to go. Yeah, and know how to buy it. Or just shift a few things. That's it. But it really is disgusting as to what is happening to pricing. I have no idea how people with kids, it is a tough one. Bigger the family, the tougher it gets. But but my point here is that I'm noticing that people who, and like in a lot of other businesses, people that you've known for years are now forced to screw the people that have held them together for all the years, and that's a really crappy thing to have happen because it just is. It just is. So anyway, I'm going to ask Jade. Jade, out in where you are, your area of the woods, what does an iced coffee go for? You don't see how much it. Jade doesn't really buy iced coffees out too much. Um, that's cool. You're saving a fortune. If I go into a deli, like what we call the bodega or the corner deli, it's like $4. That's it. When you go into a coffee shop, I don't know what they think they're giving you. 6.25 for an iced coffee. It's water on top of water cubes. That's why it's cold brew. And that is the huh? Yeah, no. Cold brew is the biggest fake you're ever going to find. Not iced coffee, cold brew. And I mean, I've said this a million times. Picture this. You open your store at 8 o'clock, right? The thing is, everything is 20 hours of brewing. So you open your store, your coffee shop at 8 in the morning, right? By about noon, someone takes over this big, huge bucket. They set up their little sack of coffee grinds. They put cold water in there. They do whatever they have to do. They seal it up and they put it either in the fridge or under the counter, probably in the fridge. And it winds up sitting there unattended until the next morning, 8 o'clock, when you open up again. In the meantime, the chef, the person who put a sack in a bucket of water, has gone home, gone out for dinner, went on a date, and came back the next day and said, "Look what I did for you. It's brewed for 20 hours. $1.50 more." So, yeah. I miss going to diners for these things. I miss a lot of things. But I usually go to delis for my iced coffee. And look what I'm talking about here, my iced coffee. It gets me almost as crazy as does the Oreos. I gotta tell you, the Oreos really get me. But we won't talk about that today. I'll keep myself calm. So be careful where you buy your iced coffee and the rest of your stuff. Your friends are looking to screw you. Speaking of some friends looking to screw you, America's former America's mayor, however you want to word him, Rudy Giuliani has been informed that he's a target of a probe into Trump's alleged election interference in Georgia. Here you had a guy who was a New York State Attorney General. I was never a fan, but he had a very successful career. He was the mayor of New York. There he was at 9/11. World Trade Center was attacked, standing on top of the rubble, standing there with the fire. He was America's mayor. He was leading. He was doing a really good job at that. Of all things, a lot of times, people you don't think too much of, they do pretty well when crisis comes. He did pretty well at the World Trade Center. But of course, his term ended. He had to get out. And then I guess whatever his career was, it was. Everyone still knew him. Then he got involved with Donald Trump. Now he's got deep trouble. Let me be a little bit Jewish over here. He's got cirrus. He's got problems. It's a special committee. They're investigating him. So his part in what happened with the election interference and all these possible, all the claims and all his opening of his mouth, and he should have kept it. He should have lived out his life with his kids, family, his grandkids, and lived out a good life. Go on the lecture circuit, get paid, not try to be so relevant with somebody who is so irrelevant, who wound up becoming extremely relevant. He should have stayed home. Go Rudy. Uh, hey, is anybody, speaking of politics, anybody, you ever watch an old movie, of Who Done It? Do you know what a Who Done It is? Does anybody know what a Who Done It is? That's when it's a murder mystery. And, there's always a victim. There's always something happening. And nobody knows who did it. You sort of got to figure it out. You know what happened, but it's like the game of Clue. Eventually, you have to be able to figure out, was it Professor Plum or Colonel Mustard or anyone? How did they do it? Where did they do it? And that's what a whodunit is. You have to figure out who did it. Well, I'm looking at this in today's. I don't know. This is on the website somewhere, and the thing called, it was on the Microsoft News Network under a section called Queerty. I'm not really sure what that is, but okay. And it says Mary Trump, I guess that's Donald Trump's niece, who's always writing about him and talking about him, thinks she knows who tipped off the FBI about her crazy uncle, and no, it's not Melania. So, of course, I'm looking at this picture, and who do I see here? I see Ivanka and her husband, Jared. I see there's Ivana, who's now dead. Um, there's Donald Trump Jr. in a T-shirt. And, of course, there's Barron Trump, his 15-year-old, 6'7" son. Big kid. Anyway, she thinks she knows, but she can't really say. She's not going to really say. You could milk this for a while. But one of the clues she did give was, well, she didn't really give a clue. Well, maybe a crumb. Pretty much said, well, she called, oh, man. She's just cursing everybody on that side. But pretty much she said, I don't know if it was Jared, but it could be. So we got to who done it. Who gave up Donald Trump? Was it his 15-year-old son, his dead ex-wife, or his son-in-law, his daughter? I'm hoping it's the daughter, but somehow I doubt it. Who gave up Donald Trump? Anyway, that could be fun. This could be good. Who gave up Donald? He should have stayed as a game show host. He was a lot more fun. Everybody wanted to be fired. It's the same way years ago on the show Frasier, all celebrities would call on to the show and talk to Frasier about their problems for a minute. That they had just got into whatever character. And a lot of celebrities over 11 years called up and told Frasier their problem. This is good. You got to be on the show and you got to be fired by Donald Trump. That was a thing. Like for any kind of sitting president, it's like you're a star when Saturday Night Live makes fun of you. Except for Donald Trump. He didn't like it. Anyway, so what else is going on here? This is kind of a sad story. I'm looking at this story from ABC News. This came up about a couple of hours ago. And a 1,300-pound walrus that was claimed to have become was a popular attraction in Norway, and someone's right, in Norway in recent weeks, was euthanized on Sunday after officials concluded that the marine mammal posed a risk to humans. That's because Freya, the walrus, Freya, liked to hop up on boats. Freya was friendly. Gather the water, lay on your boat, but hopefully it was, if it's a small boat, it could be a problem, and just see what was going on. Take a nap, talk to the people, and get out. Well, officials, the so-called experts decided that someone just sent me a message that moving Freya was not feasible or viable, whatever word they want to use. And They euthanized her. And this was not an intentionally dangerous animal. She was not looking to hurt anybody. She simply wanted to hang out. And I can't stand when that happens. That was her crime. She was curious and friendly. And of course, they couldn't figure out how to get her to move. So they killed her. I hate people. I truly do. Uh, what else is going on in the world? Look at us. This hour's flying by. Reading about Starbucks, they're having a big problem. We discussed this a couple of weeks ago. The story came up the other day. The Starbucks started the open bathroom policy a few years ago, and the place, the homeless, everyone started going in, the drug addicts, and that's what it's becoming. This is one here is from Manhattan, from NoHo, north of Houston Street, is a kind. It's just become a home for was what is, and I quote, drug users, mentally disturbed people, and homeless folks looking to take a nap. So people are just sitting down, either going into the bathroom to shoot up or do whatever they do, or at a table or whatever, and just leaning back and taking a nap or whatever it is they're doing. And I know everyone should be understanding, have tolerance. I understand. But do you think the people who are being helped actually care? I have to now open up a message because keep on pinging. Okay, there you go. Sorry. Not all homeless people are have bad intentions, have ill intended. Not all drug addicts are out to hurt you. That's not the case. No one ever said it was. But you're giving people with no place to go a place to go, and it's not like they're sitting down, cooling off, getting, even if Starbucks gave a free coffee and not leaving, they're actually sitting and sleeping on a table. And a few Starbucks has had to close a few locations around around the country. Here it says one man brought his own box of cinnamon toast crunch, a carton of milk, and some Entenmann's mini crumb cakes before passing out face down on the table. Mentally disturbed man in a black trench coat talked to himself and screamed obscenities at the communal mirror. So he was screaming, and he was talking to himself into a mirror and yelling at himself. Um, Near the bathroom. Okay, another guy brought in his bike, his bags. I knew one guy used to shower in the bathroom. Left it pretty immaculate and clean, but he used to shower in the bathrooms. Phone charges, nice couches. Yeah, it's some Starbucks are actually very well decorated. You can get very comfortable there, and that's just what's happening. They are being, I won't say ruined because they may go to fix it, may go take care of this, but somehow they are being sabotaged by their own policy. Speaking of sabotage business in New York City, in the East Village, Greenwich Village, East Village, which is on the east side of Broadway, if you're not familiar, busy area, except it's lost 300 local businesses over the last couple of years. That's about 19% of neighborhood storefronts. 331 out of 1,776 were vacant in October of 2021, a 5% increase from the same time in 2019. That's what happens when everyone orders everything on the internet. Landlords keep raising your rent. Not to mention a pandemic and people moving away. And that's what's happening in Manhattan as far as storefronts go. But that is, landlords, they're looking for big name businesses to go into their stores. They don't want my money. They don't want your money. They want big chains to come in there that have big money, big checkbooks, and they're going to write big checks for big rent. Everything is big. They don't want the little stores. I know a couple of businesses that have just been asked to leave by their landlord after 28 and 30 years of occupancy. They paid their checks every month. Checks were golden. Checks were perfect. They got the leases are up. They were told to leave. This is what happens. There's so many places closed down that were actually kind of necessary. When you see hardware stores closing and certain other businesses, they're necessary. I mean, not that I want to see anybody fail, but if one out of 20 coffee shops closes, you know what I mean? But when you look at certain shops that have been there for a long, long time, or that serve a real purpose, it's kind of it's actually very sad. It does affect the neighborhood around them. What is this? Hey, remember last week I was talking about um, culinary appropriation? Remember that? We were talking about that last week. If you don't remember it, you can go back to the last show. It's there. I was loud. Excuse me. I need a drink. This is from August 12th. I get this from the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, which was established in 1917, by the way. And it says in new book, Kosher Soul, award-winning chef Michael Twitty fuses African American and Jewish culinary histories. Says the James Beard award-winning chef Michael Twitty released a book of recipes and essays that fuses Jewish and, as I said, African American culinary histories this week. Recipes, you got recipes, right? Okay. And he's got a good thing going. It's interesting. He's managed to take, again, ingredients, flavor, the history of both kitchens, put them together, and hopefully everybody enjoys it. At no time am I looking at this story and seeing the word appropriation, appropriate, appropriated. At no time do I see any of this. I like the title Kosher Soul. It lets you know you're mixing a few things together. This is pretty good. I have to buy this book. I am definitely buying this book. Why not? Because why not? Because I don't find it appropriating. Somehow, I do not care that a chef whose skin color is different than mine, who comes from somewhere else in the country, who's not from New York, or I don't even know where he's from. I don't care. I don't care if somebody who says they're African American is taking my Jewish cooking, my grandmother's recipe, and mixing it with his grandmother's recipe and saying, here, taste that. It's okay. It's good. It is good. So that is the book. I don't even know this man, but Kosher Soul. If you're into cooking, go find this book because why not? Try something different in your life. The hell with avocado toast. Try something different. Believe me, there's plenty of good breakfast going on in a black kitchen and a Jewish kitchen. You'll find lots of good food at the table in both cultures. Feel free to try it. It won't kill you. Next. Next, what? I like that little sparkle over the 300. I was trying a few of them that didn't work out. I don't know if this works out too well, but it looks a little dark, I know. But what the hell? The 300's popping. Let's see. Let's get to someone really. I always say this stupid people, really dumbasses running around. Got this from NBC News, NBC4 News. That's our local NBC News affiliate, Channel 4 News, August 11th. Because the heat was going on so bad this summer, someone thought it was okay to put a 60-ton pool on a Brooklyn roof. New York City said, nope, 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 nope. And we know the heat can make you a little bit crazy, but a 60-ton pool, wow, 480 square feet of it. That's a healthy size pool. Now, it doesn't look like that in-ground one you'd have in your backyard in a big piece of property, or even it doesn't even look like it's so well supported. Looks like the insides on the sides are caving in. But this is a massive pool, filling that with water. Holy moly. I don't know how the roof didn't cave in. But okay, city had to get rid of it. Looks nice and cool. They really did a nice job. Has that nice pool look inside. They didn't just do a hack job putting it together, or sort of. It's not decoratively speaking on the inside. But yeah, that's dangerous. People are stupid. The easy way the city, New York City buildings said it was not built up to code and had to be removed. It's a safety hazard. It's it's on a roof of an old building and it weighs 60 tons. So, oh man, that's a wow. Don't do that. Open a fire hydrant. You're better off. I'll go on back to my culinary stuff. Look at this. Who thought of this? A Berlin company, Blue, UU, Seafood revealed fish sticks and fish balls made from cells cultured in the lab without killing any real fish. So I guess they scraped off a few gills of the fish they're going to kill or the ones that are in the tank, and they're growing you fish sticks. Yuck, yuck. Hey, it looks like a fish stick, but yuck. That's nasty. Cell cultured products. I don't even know what that. No, I do know what that means, but why? Why? Oh man, I'm a Jewish kid from Brooklyn. My gefilte fish will be cell culture. This just looks. This doesn't even sound good. I mean, it looks okay because it's brown, it has breading, it's fried. Everything looks good. It's fried. I'm not even quite. It doesn't even say exactly what fish cells this is coming from. I couldn't tell you. The fish itself is white, but I don't know that it's flounder. I don't know. Maybe it cells from tilapia, which is also a farm-grown fish. It's not, you can't go tilapia fishing. It doesn't exist. It's like a farm. It's a created fish. For all I know, this is like even fake tilapia. That's disgusting. It really is. It's disgusting. I'm telling you, it's getting worse out there, people. You got to set the bar high. You got to say no more to this stuff. No more. I don't want this. Keep your dreck away from me. This, yeah, I know. Ugh. This one I found interesting as a science experiment. I just don't get why. Again, people, it's you're not going to see this in the news, and I sort of like it for this reason. I had to find this thing. I went to the Huffington Post, and I found this story, like the farm-grown fish sticks. But I found this story, and someone, I guess like a geek genius, decided to give a snake robotic legs. It turns out, as he explains, what's his name? This guy's name is Alan Pan. He's a YouTuber. And he was explaining in this video that as an embryo, snakes have legs. Okay. So he wanted to know why you couldn't give a snake legs. And he did it a few ways. One way was to give him legs in the front and the back. But first, you had to get a snake to crawl through this tube, a long tube. Because remember, it's a long snake. And first, he was explaining that when the snake is nervous or a little apprehensive or defensive, they curl into a S shape. Okay. When they're more relaxed, they sort of elongate. They're long. And he created a tube roughly the size of the snake that he found that was given to him. It's an experiment for this. Didn't hurt the snake. Make no mistake. The snake was not abused. But he had to get the measurements, and he did. He built this tube with some robotic legs with cute little orange or yellow feet. And when the legs are in the front and the back, it didn't seem to work. But first he operated with a remote control to see if he can get the tube to move, and he did. Then after finally coaxing, after a while of getting the snake to crawl through, the snake was starting to walk. It didn't work with the forelegs. He only left the legs in the front, but it was working. He got the snake. I don't know, maybe it's because of muscle contraction, because when snakes move, they don't have feet or legs or feet. They're just using their body muscles. And that's probably what's setting off these legs. because the snake, without any remote control assistance, was walking. This is actually, I don't know about necessary. It's a stroke of genius, but I don't know about necessary. But it is pretty smart. So yes, someone thought to give a snake legs. There you go. There's always something for someone. That's pretty inventive, though. Oh, and by the way, going back to culinary, I'm reading from the CNN page from a couple of days ago. Velveeta is making a comeback. Remember Velveeta, that stuff that melts over nachos and everywhere else? Well, it's in nail polish. It's in a Veltini. I showed you a picture of that. The martini with the Velveeta cheese in it, some garlic and some other stuff. And yes, Velveeta is making a comeback. Probably because it's less expensive than a lot of other cheese and you do a lot of things with it. I mean, you could melt it and put it into almost any sandwich you want. I'm not really sure what cheese it really is. It sort of looks like cheddar, but I wouldn't swear to it. For all I know, it's as lab grown as the fish sticks. But Velveeta is on the comeback trail. So if you like it, before the prices get jacked up, like $12.99 a pound, or $6.25 a cup, go get a few Velveetas, put them in your fridge, and use them when you need to. I don't know that this product can go bad like a Twinkie. I don't know if it can ever go bad. It's Velveeta. But I sort of, okay, listen, everything comes and goes, right? Everything comes and goes. Just remember that. And excuse me. Before we get done with all this stuff, stories, New York City Bike program will be offering $5 per month rides to low income riders. I'm sure you have to have a membership, and I'm sure you have to show what your income is. But $5 a month for low income riders, which is actually pretty brilliant because the city could make a lot of money that way. As we all know, that congestion pricing is coming to Manhattan. People who are driving in, they'll be banged out pretty well. People who are living here, unless they get free passes because you live in Manhattan, will be they'll be risking all kinds of pricing. That depends on where they live and where they're going. That's going to have to be that problem has to be rectified. But the idea that City Bike is offering a $5 program initially is a good idea. We'll see how the city manages to screw that up. I really just wish that they would make City Bike as accountable for traffic violations as anybody else because they're going against bike lanes. They're going against traffic and streets, bike lanes. They're on the sidewalks. They're everywhere. That's because people just don't care about anything. And I almost got hit a couple of days ago. Somebody made a turn going the wrong way and said, "Oh, I'm in a rush." But okay, great. But anyway, check into it. New York City Bike program. See what's going on with their $5 a month rides. See when that's going to start and all that. And what else before we stop with this stuff? We have covered. Wow, somebody put up a picture of me on Facebook from when I was about 27 playing paddleball in Brooklyn. Paddleball, if you don't know what it is, was handball with a wooden racket in your hand. Just you hit the ball a little harder. I played for a lot of years in my old public school schoolyard. We had handball courts. I went to PS 100. Trust me, the five boroughs of New York City: Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, and the Bronx. This is the only place I know in the world where it's more important to know where you went to your high school and public school than it is to know where you went to college. It really is. I don't know why, just the way it is. So to let everybody know, I went to PS 100 and I went to Lincoln High School. And Lincoln kicked ass. All of you out there, we kicked ass. So, and there I looked pretty good in the shot. I was a lot lighter than I am now. Looked pretty menacing with my racket in my hand. Pretty good. Good shot. And pretty much that is what I'm talking about today. I mean, after lab grown fish sticks, what else is there in your life? What else have you got? Well, the stream was pretty quiet today, but that's okay. That's okay. Jade and I have it all to ourselves. Speaking of everything we're doing here and contacting us, I wasn't speaking of it, but I am now. If you want to write to us, wish us well, wish us bad, tell us what you're doing, tell us a story, write to me at upfrontfrank@gmail.com, upfrontfrank@gmail.com. If you'd like to try this on your own, and I recommend that you do, write to us at Skies Crescent Radio, SKYES, Crescent Radio at gmail.com. And if you'd like to inquire about Jade's music and if she's for hire or not, an event you may have that maybe Jade could fit into well, write to her at jadezabrick@gmail.com. Either way, one of us everywhere will get back to you in short order. And yes, please, as a reminder again, please go and subscribe to us and like us on YouTube and here on Twitch and on Facebook and wherever else you may see us. That would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, we're coming up to 543. Wow, I did 300 shows. I didn't bring more stories. This is my time. I did 300 shows. I have talked about so many things. It's odd. I have I don't know how big of a challenge I presented, but I didn't buy into everything I heard in the news, and I sort of talked about it. And if I didn't, if I made people uncomfortable along the way, good. At least you were listening. If you didn't agree with me, that's good too. You're not supposed to always agree with somebody. If you did agree with me, that's even better. Means I was on the right track for somebody. But as long as you were listening, some of my favorite conversations happened a lot of years ago on this show in the beginning and sort of in the middle. Of course, the last 2.5 years we've been on Zoom, due to COVID. The last studio that Jade and I were at, that sort of shut down. Jade picked it up with her website. So we're here. And guests have been few and far between, obviously. But I've had some great conversations out here. And over 300, we played some really good music and talked about a lot of things. And not all my interviews that I had early on were easy. So not everybody is a good interview. They don't always have an answer. They can't give you an answer that you're hoping for. Sometimes this doesn't go the way you're hoping. But sometimes it was really, really good. I used to like the old station for one reason. There was two big rooms. And the host and his guests would hang around in the bigger room before they would leave. And if they heard something I was saying, they'd look over at me and probably not believing what I was saying. And I just waved them in. Whoever wanted to come in, I would just wave them in. And I used to get some very good impromptu conversations that if I tell you not scripted, you can believe me. And of course, we've had a lot of friends on. I think that's really good. Anyway, so we're at 300, and I thank everybody who's been involved along the way. I thank Jade for hanging in with me all this time, letting you know that Jade's going on vacation next week. I think she's going to play her music in the Grand Canyon all through the 3 states. It's going to be a 3-state concert, one a day. She's going to be playing in the canyon, on the river. She's all over the place. Jade's good that way. She's all over the place. And we'll be back. Not next Monday, but the Monday after. So 2 weeks. Come on back. Meantime, I'll find some interesting stuff to talk to. And maybe if you've been good enough to put up with my talking about my weight, maybe you'll see me drop a couple of pounds more. I'm getting close to a jean size, certainly a belt size. And I don't know. We'll see what happens, right? Anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in. We're going to cut it short today because I said everything I had to say, and I don't want to stretch it too far. Thank you all for tuning in. For those who have been staying with me all through the run, thank you for hanging in. I wouldn't be here without someone listening and either nodding their head or shaking their head. Either way, each one works good for me. I will see everybody in a couple of weeks. Jade, have a great vacation, and I leave you with a big good night.